Likeable 21-year-old Californian lost his right leg below the knee as a baby, but by the time he was 9, he was racing motorbikes. When he was 16, he'd already turned professional, thanks to plenty of encouragement from his father and also from his close friend Sean Moran, the current US and European under-21 champion. There are some people who say Dave's artificial leg is a handicap, but he's very quick to defend it.
It's me. I consider it just like my arm, like you have an arm or a leg, it's me, it's part of me, so I don't really consider it a handicap whatsoever. Sometimes I think it's an advantage in a way, because you can come out at the corner and your leg's on the right side of the foot peg, and that's where the wall is, and you can bounce off the wall and you don't feel a thing.
De Temple's track style speaks for itself. He's currently the #2 rider in the States and has come to Perth, along with Moran, world champion Ivan Mauger and British star John Davis, for Friday night's King of Claremont solo classic at the showgrounds, where they'll take on the best Australia has to offer. Despite today's searing heat, Dave practiced hard for Friday's stepping stone towards his ultimate goal.
Just a good training ground for me, and I want to make it to the top. I want to see if I can get to be world champion. I think I have a good shot at it.
While racing, the New Zealander found himself constantly pressed by a top field of international and local riders. But the form that has carried Mauger to 9 world titles brought him home second in Heat 12, and with that placing, he wins the accolade as King of Claremont Speedway. In the TVW sprint car feature, taxi driver Martin Lawton was driving a car he'd only had for 2 weeks. But Lawton didn't let that worry him as he cruised to victory ahead of such top drivers as Lee Foster and Alf Barbagallo. We'll have complete Speedway coverage tomorrow on Channel 7's World of Sport.
40, and for that reason, he no longer chases international titles with the same exuberance as he did previously. He's cut back his competitive appearances by a third in the past year. But those titles he pursues are done so at the same breakneck speed. In fact, those who saw Mauger win his record 4th King of Claremont title last Friday night are convinced he's riding better than ever.
I'm riding okay, but I'm wise enough to know that I'm only riding okay because I'm not doing as many meetings. If I tried to do a number of meetings that I used to do previously, the results wouldn't be so good, I don't think.
The fact that Mauger has curtailed his racing doesn't mean his interest in the sport is waning. Quite the contrary. He successfully promoted last year's World Championship in Los Angeles, and he takes a vital interest in the development of Australasia's young riders, one of whom is his son, Kim. And Mauger is perhaps better qualified than anyone else to determine what the sport needs if it's to thrive in Australia and New Zealand.
Really, it's lacking an Australasian superstar. A young guy, a young Australian or New Zealand, it doesn't really matter, who can go to any state and win against the top locals. We need an Aussie or a Kiwi who's recognisable away from the sport.
Mauger makes his final appearance at Claremont this Friday in the Big Six Championship.
He'd recorded the fastest time for the night. While Lewis escaped unharmed, the Victorian champion John Mills didn't fare as well during the running of the Grand Prix. It's thought that a front wheel of Mills's car clipped the rear wheel of another, hurling his car through the air. It was the most serious accident the champion has experienced in his 20-year racing history. John ambulance officers raced to his aid, and he was later taken to the Western General Hospital, where he's now said to be in a satisfactory condition. He's suffering head and shoulder injuries.
Speed car champion Keith Mann won the feature race, but he could be relegated to 2nd place after bumping another driver.
Graham Jones, driving car number 4, had the lead in the 20-lap speed car feature until the 11th lap. Close behind him, 2-time national champion Keith Mann, returning to Claremont after racing in New Zealand. The 2 cars touched, and Jones skidded off the track. He later got back in the race, but Mann was first across the line. Mann, though, finished the race under a protest flag, and Jones could ultimately be declared the winner.
It was just one of those things. I happened to touch Graham on the back end, running real close, and the steward seemed to think that that I was either deliberately or something that they relegated me to 2nd place, so I'm not real happy about that.
Do you feel that you did anything wrong at all?
No, it's just one of those racing incidents. You run close and you're bound to touch sooner or later, you know, and it's just one of those things.
In the solo handicap, Peter Toth was injured when his motorcycle hit the wall. He's recovering now in hospital. The same thing happened to young Kim Mauger, son of champion Ivan Mauger. But instead of dropping out, Kim shook off the effects of the fall, brought his bike around for the restart, and ultimately won the race. Small, fast motor cars that require the utmost in reflexes and skill from their drivers. So what's a 63-year-old man doing driving speed cars against competitors a third his age? Doing very well, that's what. Dud Lambert took out second place in a speed car heat last night, aided no doubt by the mechanical expertise of his favorite pit crew member, his wife Daphne. At an age when most men have long since become spectators, Dud Lambert is still on the track, with no plans for quitting.
Keep with the young ones, that's the idea, make them honest.
How has the sport changed since you started driving? However many years ago that would have been?
Oh, 30 years ago, it's changed not much, only a few more safety devices, which makes it a bit, better for the younger ones coming on. I don't think they're as daring as they used to be.
Is there anything particularly challenging for you at your age doing this?
No, I just want to set an example for the grandchildren. I'll tell them I'm going to outlive them, I can out-talk them and I'll outrun them.
How long do you plan to keep it up?
Till I'm 70. Then I'm going to take on hang gliding.
Badly cut leg and concussion. That kept him off his bike for several weeks, while other riders were gearing up for the new season. So today's practice at Claremont Speedway was vital in his preparation to meet Sawyer this week. The pair will compete in a best-of-3 series of one-lap sprints for the Golden Helmet, an award Keith won last year by defeating Glyn Taylor 2 races to 1. The champion has plenty of respect for his new opponent, but is still confident he can retain the crown.
I'd say, without taking anything away from the other riders, he'd be one of the fastest gators here, probably the fastest rider all around. Doesn't have a lot of luck, but if I do beat him, it won't be easy. I'm quite sure of that, so I won't be taking any chances.
Of thrills, spills and speed at Whitfield Claremont Speedway. 3 action-packed hours as the fastest machine and the toughest men battle out on the big track. Thrilling speed and hard-stopping, bone-crunching crashes. 3 hours of non-stop action for all ages. Whitfield Claremont Speedway at the showground. Come along, you'll have a fantastic Friday.
A couple of weeks ago, we brought you a story about the speedway racing family, the Kinsers. Well, they've arrived in Australia, all 15 of them, and are all set now to take the Australian speedway circuit by storm.
What the Clantons did for Beverly Hills, the Kinser clan has done for American sprint car racing. The first family of oval track competition is in Australia for a 5-state tour that will take in all of the major speedway circuits. The Kinser clan is unique. 15 members carrying the same surname make up the JPS Team America squad. Brothers Steve and Randy share the driving spotlight with their cousins Mark and Kelly, but above all, their Australian tour is a family affair. Why, everywhere you look, there's a Kinser.
Well, I think the sprint cars, what makes them the excitement to run them is the cars weigh just a little bit over 1,400 pounds, and they're putting out anywhere from 650 to 700 horsepower. And with that light of a car and that much horsepower, the cars have probably got more weight to horsepower ratio power than any other car there is going.
Sprint car racing is a rough and tough sport, but its popularity in the United States is quite unique. Season prize money presently tops the $2 million mark. It's called outlaw competition. Big engines, lightweight cars, huge purses, and substantial corporate backing. This is not Formula One, but in terms of good old American acceptability, it's better because the boys get down to earth. 29-year-old Steve Kinser is sprint car racing's universally accepted world champion. He's ruled the roost for 6 consecutive years, and that makes him the king of the outlaws.
Well, I think, you know, I got to give a lot of my success to Carl Kinser. When I started driving for him in '78, back then he probably had what we thought was the best cars around our part in the Midwest. And since then, since I started driving for him, we got out and got to travel all across the United States, and I found out that he had the best cars probably in the United States. So, like I said, he is probably the best as far as setting chassis up and getting good horsepower and getting it to the ground, and it really makes my job a lot easier when you got somebody that good behind you.
The JPS Kinser Team America Tour opened at Sydney's Liverpool Raceway. Everyone agreed it was neutral territory. The clan had never seen the place before, and it had been 12 years since Australian sprint car drivers had competed there on a dirt surface.
When the Kinser clan and the other top contenders hit the circuit tonight in their 500 brake horsepower sprint cars, we're going to be in for some great action. And tonight they'll be on a very specially prepared surface. At the present time, they're driving around wheel packing the clay down to a smooth base. It's just as important for a speedway driver to have a smooth, firm surface as it is for a circuit driver to have the right kind of tyres and surface for their kind of racing. Tonight, we're going to see some spectacular racing. And when we see people like Tatnall and Rush and the Kinser clan, the fireworks will really fly. The circuit is now in excellent condition. The weather is very good. And in Speedway, they qualify for the heats and the final, just as they do in circuit racing. The only thing is, in Speedway, the top guys start from the back.
Mark Kinser in car 4 was the first of the clan to show his wares. The 21-year-old speedster finished 6th in the outlaw point standings in the United States this year, and he ripped around the track in 14.11 seconds to be 4th fastest. Sydney veteran George Tatnall might be close to retirement, but you'd never pick it from the way he can hurl a car around. Tatnall finished around the track in 14.29 seconds to be 5th fastest qualifier. However, the star attraction in qualifying was Steve Kinser in the black #1 car. He chose a wide line around the bank quarter-miler, and where other drivers were backing off, Kinser was still on the power. His time for the journey was 12.72 seconds, a new track record, and proof the King was not ready to be dethroned in the land down under. The 2 8-car qualifying heat saw the American start at the back of the field. Front runner Kevin Worthington took the first from a hard-charging George Tatnall, with Randy Kinser staying in touch with them all the way. The second heat saw brother Steve charge through the traffic at full throttle. It took him only a lap to split the field, and from there he opened up a huge gap on Bruce White and Dennis Farr. So the preliminaries completed, and the 30-lap main event still to come. How the Kinser clan fares, we'll discover later in the program.
Who's devastated everybody here tonight at Liverpool. Steve Kinser, a hat-trick, 3 wins. Great stuff.
Well, we're started off great. We got one more race, probably starting pretty far back in the back. Haven't seen the lineup yet. We just hope we keep it going.
The track looks to be just a little choppy in places. Giving you any trouble?
Well, they've had a lot of rain here, and it's really soaked down in deep in the track, and it is a little bit choppy, but it's hard to beat Mother Nature on stuff like that. But we're getting around real well.
And so the field is set now for the running of the 30-lap Valvoline Pan Pacific Cup race at Liverpool Raceway. And all eyes from the big crowd here tonight are certainly on the 6-times World of Outlaws champion, Steve Kinser. He's done it so well. Ready now for the start of the Valvoline Pan Pacific Cup. Bob Hill on the inside and John Walsh lead the field. They're racing into the bottom corner, and it's Walsh who goes through very quickly indeed. Bob Hill in second. George Tatnall is third. Then the scrap comes with Bob Blacklaw and Steve Kinser in car #1. John Walsh, car number 75, leads. No, he doesn't. George Tatnall, the veteran Sydney driver, takes over the lead. Second spot is now being held down by Walsh and Steve Kinser, and car #1 is third, followed by Blacklaw, and then Randy Kinser in car #2. The scrap is going to be between Kinser and Walsh as they come off the turn. Just look at the two of them. Into the bottom turn, car number 75, John Walsh, who's raced with great distinction in the USA, but here's the man that dominates, Kinser, through on the inside. Steve Kinser now makes it up into second place as they come down the straightaway. Tatnall runs up against car number 17, a very slow machine, and absolutely blitzes them as he makes his way onto the back straightaway. Race leader about to come onto the front straightaway. It's George Tatnall in car number 6, and here's Kinser in hot pursuit.
And Kinser doing a great job to thread his way through the traffic, but Tatnall is driving like a man possessed. Down the back straight once again, rounds up the slower traffic. The bad news is the 2 of the Kinser clan are out. Kelly didn't get a start in the 3rd of the restarts. But we're watching this man here, the world champion, Steve Kinser, 29 years of age, getting down to times of around about 12.2 seconds as he attempts to close the gap on race leader, number 6, George Tatnall, and he's doing just that as he comes back into the home straight once again. Round towards turn #1, now up into the back straight, turn 3, and Kinser unleashing about 550 brake horsepower on Tatnall. Tatnall gets wide. Kinser goes to split the gap down on the inside, but he couldn't quite get through. And as they come out of turn 2, it's Kinser in hot pursuit. George Tatnall, the Sydney veteran, and the 29-year-old 6-time world champion, Steve Kinser, onto the front straight at Liverpool's Raceway. Now Kinser looks for the inside run, but the track is a little on the rough end down the bottom. As they go down the back straightaway, Tatnall uses the high line. He's going in there hard against the concrete wall. These cars are running flat out, and they're coming up on slower cars now. Just look at the wall of cars. Tatnall elects to run the outside. Kinser gets caught up behind the slower car. The crowd roars. Tatnall gets the break and is trying to separate the cars in front of him. Through the turn, Kinser makes up the distance almost in one straightaway. Here he comes, and he's back on the tail of Tatnall's car again. Tatnall going into the bottom turn. Car number 6 is the race leader. Kinser warming to the job now as the two of them flash down the back straightaway. And Kinser has got the back wheel on the wall, Rooster tailing dirt. The two of them come out of the bend, down the front straightaway again. So Steve Kinser takes over the lead in the Valvoline Pan Pacific main. George Tatnall is in second place. Back in third is Randy Kinser. And just look at the gap that Kinser now puts. Tatnall, not to be denied, is trying to stick with him, but Kinser is driving this car deeper into the turns than we've ever seen here on the new clay oval. Comes out, lapping car after car. There's Tatnall going through in the number 6 machine. Meanwhile, Randy Kinser is back in third place at the wheel of car number 2 and doing it nicely on the outside. And we've got George Tatnall with problems on the back straightaway as the lights come on. Car number 6. George Tatnall steps from the car, number 6. He doesn't look happy. He came together with Randy Kinser a short while earlier, and it looks like Tatnall may have collided with a slower car with about 3 laps remaining. Steve Kinser coming up here on the back of car number 95. That's Sid Moore. Gives Moore the flick on the outside, and once again increases that lead that he holds over John Walsh in car number 75. Back in third place is Bob Blacklaw in car number 78. They were then followed by Bob Tunks in car number 54. 2 laps remain in the Pan Pacific Cup from Liverpool Raceway. And the world champ, Steve Kinser, doing it comfortably in car number 1. Comes out onto the back straightaway, and halfway down the back straightaway, he's in great shape. Into turn number 4. First night in Australia, the Kinser clan has struck at Liverpool. Steve Kinser goes across to win the Pan Pacific main event. Second place will go to Sydney International, John Walsh, and third place will go to Bob Blacklaw over former Australian champion Bob Tunks. So to the victor goes the spoils. Steve Kinser, first night out in Australia, unbeaten at the Liverpool Raceway in one of the most devastating performances seen in this country. Steve Kinser, a class performer. That's why he is the king of the outlaws.
Catch him if you can. He's the king of the outlaws. He's a leader of the pack. He's the one up front that's all